I'm working on a project at the moment, and it's taking longer than expected. Um, so I haven't uploaded anything in a while. So to make up for that, I'm going to do a quick video about something else. I was asked by somebody, would it be possible to modify a blade so that it ignites yellow instead of green? The idea being it would be used with the Ahsoka Clone Wars Legacy sabers, so that those sabers can ignite green or blue. But what they want to do is keep the blue, but instead of green, have yellow. And that seems like it's going to be a pretty simple mod, so I figured I'd record it, and we can all see whether or not it works. The way the mod works is we have these three transistors here. They're marked Q7, Q5, and Q6. Q5 is the green transistor, Q6 is the red transistor, and in theory it's just going to be a matter of bridging the drain on Q5 with the drain on Q6. So when green turns on, red will also turn on. I just need to bridge those two pins there, and that should be it. I think I'm going to keep the blade in the bottom half of this black package here, this half of the plastic casing, knowing that if I come anywhere near this with my soldering iron, I'm going to melt the plastic, so I want to be aware of that, not touch any of that. But this way I have a good base to push down on when I'm soldering. Because if I don't do it this way, I need something else to put underneath it, because you see these capacitors dangle down like so, and they can... You could bend them out of the way, of course, and then bend them back, but every time you bend the leads of a capacitor like that, you're risking those leads breaking. And I'm going to tape it down just to hold it in place. Any tape would do. I'm going to use electrical tape here, just so it's not wandering while I'm trying to solder this thing down. And I think we'll do it like that. A little bit of an angle, that should hopefully help, but whatever is comfortable for you. So to create that jumper, I'm going to use one of these. Whenever I am making some electronic kit, I have resistors, capacitors, or LEDs that are part of it, and you clip the excess lead off of that, and I save them because they make great jumpers, such as in cases like this. So I can get a rough idea here and just sort of come in here with some side cutters. Clip it about there. Get stuck to the blade. There we go. That's all I need. Check that length again, see if that looks any better. That looks pretty good. Okay, so with my length of lead, the idea is I'm going to reflow the blob of solder on the right there. Put this lead down on top of it. And that blob of solder on the right will then hold the lead in place, and then I can put some solder on the left-hand side to finish the connection here. So this is in theory. Let's see if it actually works. It's sort of there. Let's see if I can get that right-hand side to stick. That left-hand side. Why am I having problems with my left and my right? I think that's a good connection. I'll reinforce the right. That looks good. I could bring in a multimeter. I'm going to put it on continuity, so when the two leads touch, you're going to hear a beep. So I should be able to go to the green pin here and the red after the diode and get a beep, and I do. Alright, those two are connected. With the mod in place, it's time to reassemble the blade and make sure that the mod actually works. So I'll just quickly put this back together. There is a little notch on the contact plate here, and if you just roll it around in the groove that it goes into a little bit like so, it'll lock itself into place. You'll need to do that again just to sort of confirm or put it back into place if it shifts a little bit. Right about now. And I stick my finger in the slot there just to confirm that it's in place. Now, if you're fully confident that your mod is good and you have no reason to ever open this up again, go ahead and screw this back together. However, at least for me, I find that on most blades, at least blades that haven't been opened 100 times already, you can just squeeze this together and it'll hold itself together well enough to do a quick test by throwing it into a lightsaber. So this is a nice quick way. It saves you the steps of having to screw this in and then unscrew it if something is screwed up and you need to fix it. I don't have an Ahsoka's Clone Wars Legacy hilt, so I'm just going to use a Savvy's with a green crystal in it, because all we really care about is making sure that green ignites as yellow. And that is yellow. I think you can see it well enough in the camera to make it obvious that, yeah, that's yellow. I think it works perfectly. A green crystal is giving me a yellow blade. Exactly what we wanted. Blue crystal. And it ignites blue. So the green from yellow mod works just as I had hoped. Now, let's revert the mod. To revert the mod, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of removing that jumper. So to remove that lead, if I had the wire sort of bowed up a little bit, I could probably just come in here with side cutters and cut it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to flood this whole area with solder so that when my soldering iron is applied to it, both joints are going to be molten, so I can just hopefully pull this up. That seems to have done... Oops. Spoke too soon. The lead is out. From one side at least. There. Okay, the lead is removed. And as long as you have no bridge between the two, you're fine. If that extra blob of solder is a little bit much and you want to get rid of it, you have a couple of options here. You can just come in with your soldering iron and just dab at it and wipe the tip of your iron off. And every time you do this, you're taking away just a little bit of solder. And it's probably going to take 5 to 10 dabs, maybe more, to get a lot of that solder out. But it's going to make things a little bit easier than if you tried to get in there with something like a soldering braid. A solder sucker would probably work too. But that is enough, I think, for me. There is some flux residue. That's the sort of the darker areas here and the shiny little residue stuff you see floating around. You can leave that stuff there It isn't going to impact anything. But if you do want to clean it up, some isopropyl alcohol on the end of a cotton swab. And the first time through, what you're doing is the isopropyl alcohol is diluting or dissolving the flux. And then you can come in here with the dry side of the cotton swab to sort of sop up all the isopropyl on the top of the board here that now has flux residue floating in it. And you can see that's cleaned it up pretty well. Now it's time to reassemble and prove that the blade is back to stock performance. And then we're done. I just want to go over a couple of tips here if you're going to attempt this mod. The first tip is, before you even turn on your soldering iron, do a practice run. Figure out how you're going to get at those pads with your soldering iron. So like this diode here and this inductor here sort of make coming in from like this angle a little bit difficult, because you can't, you have to angle your soldering iron up to almost vertical or perpendicular to the PCB here just to get in there. Maybe it's easier to come in at an angle from here, or maybe from the left over here. Figure out the angles, figure out what is most comfortable for you with your soldering iron. Another thing to think of is the PCB doesn't have to be laying flat. Feel free, especially if you're using this black plastic piece here to hold it or to support it, you can rotate this thing to all sorts of different degrees. Whatever makes your job easier soldering, do it. So if having it over here like this, go ahead, put it there, tape it down, and now come in here and get at the pads. Or if it's the other way, for example, for me, I found it was easier if I had it facing me like this, and then I could come at that a little bit easier. If I didn't have a camera here, maybe I'd go straight up and down like this so I could put my iron directly over this, but the way my setup is here, I'd be bumping the camera if I did that. The point is, do a dry run and figure out what is the most comfortable for you with your soldering iron before you even turn your soldering iron on. The other thing is, if you misjudge things a little bit and you wind up melting a little bit of plastic here, that's okay for a couple of reasons. One, it's deep within the blade. Nobody's ever going to see it. Nobody's going to know about the mistakes. That's okay. And if you melt a little bit and it makes it so these two halves don't close together tightly because there's a little bump here, you can flatten that out with some sandpaper or hobby knife or whatever. Just clip it. Again, if you have a little bit of a notch here, or divot, that's okay. Not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anything, and it gets hidden nicely inside of the blade like so. Nobody will know about the mistake. That's okay. One last thing for this particular mod. If it makes life easier for you, there are a few different places you can attach the wires to. So for the red channel, you can go either to the anode side of the diode here. You see the diode has a couple of lines on it. That's the cathode side. That's the cathode side, the negative side of the diode. You can attach your wire here or here. These are both connected. Either place works. So if the bigger pad is more comfortable for you, absolutely use the bigger pad. There's no reason not to. For the green side, it either has to be the drain pin here on this MOSFET, or you could actually come up here to the green test pad. It's marked with a G. Or you could even go to the point here that connects to the LED PCB here. You could put your wire here, or here, or here for the green side. That will make your life, if it makes your life easier, then go ahead and do that. You don't have to have it across these two pins here like I did. any of these points here for the green or either of these pads for the red side will work. Whatever is most comfortable or easiest for you, do that. So that's it. That's the mod. If you try it and it works or it doesn't work, please let me know. I like to hear about anybody who's tried any of these mods and have been able to either pull it off successfully, or if you ran into problems, I'd be curious to hear what problems you had. Maybe I can find a way to better demonstrate or make these mods a little bit easier for everybody. Now if I can just get this thing to work.